What's up, guys? Welcome back to the From the Sideline podcast with Francis.
And Peter, and today we have our first episode in a long time. Sorry for you guys. We just weren't able to upload as much due to our sports. But now the school's over, we're going to be getting back to our scheduled programming. So today we're going to be going over the NFL draft recap, which we weren't able to do yet. Then we're going to be moving on to the Mariners, talking about some baseball. Then moving on to the NBA playoffs and finals. And then finally we're going to be finishing off with the Champions League. So I hope you guys enjoy, and make sure to follow the podcast and then check out our website.
All right, we're going to recap the NFL draft, mostly the first round, talk about some steals and some reaches. Pretty much the top 6 picks went how we expected.
Joel, though.
Yeah, that was kind of I thought the Chargers were going to take a weapon like a receiver or Brock Bowers maybe, but then they went with Joel. But that was like kind of expected. And then 7th overall pick, the Titans select J.C. Latham, which I thought was a major reach there. I had J.C. Latham probably like my OT5 maybe. I don't think he's very good. He's just big. He's a little clumsy and awkward in the run game, and he's just humongous. But like obviously the Titans liked him. So, but then the 8th overall pick, the Falcons take Michael Penix Jr. How do you feel about that one, Peter, as UW fans?
I mean, obviously we love Penix, but this is just a head scratcher if we're being honest. Like, why would you sign Kirk Cousins to a max contract and then draft a quarterback who's an old quarterback coming out of the draft? He just, like, does not make sense at all. He's going to be 30 or around there by the time 28, 29, by the time that he will have the starting job. So it's just a head scratcher move. It doesn't make any sense at all. But obviously, we wish Penix the best. It just somehow I wish he went to a better situation. I think Francis also wishes that.
Yeah, I feel bad for Penix in this situation because, I mean, the Falcons have like a decent up and coming offense. Kyle Pitts, Drake London. They got some guy too.
Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, their wide receiver core is looking good right now, and. Yeah, signing Kirk Cousins to that max deal, and then
Big
like,
Kirko.
Yeah, like if you're gonna do like this kind of Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre situation, you would want to take a younger quarterback so that you can develop them more under Kirk Cousins. But they decided to take the oldest, like I think he's like the oldest quarterback in the draft. Maybe Bo Nix is older, but in Michael Penix Jr. They just said they love the way Michael Penix could spin it, which is like very true. One of the most talented ball throwers I've seen. In college football. I mean, I kind of understand it, but at that point, there's so much better, especially a team like the Atlanta Falcons who have basically holes in every single facet of their defense and offensive line. They could have gotten a lot greater value in other positions there, but yeah.
But then moving a few picks after that, J.J. McCarthy going to the Vikings. They traded up one spot for him. I think this was a pretty expected move, but from what we've seen in training camp from him so far, he's looked horrible. They just named Sam Darnold the starter. I mean, obviously it's training camp, so you can't judge too much, but he's looked pretty bad, and I still don't understand why he was rising up draft boards so much, because he just wasn't a great quarterback in college. He went 2 months without throwing a freaking touchdown for the national champions, so that's just absurd. But then Brock Bowers to the Raiders, I like that. And then Byron Murphy to the Seahawks. We're going to focus a little more on this one because obviously it's a Seahawks pick. But I like this pick. I didn't love it that much in the beginning, but he's going to be a great run stopper and pass rusher, just super dominant. And I think this is a pretty safe pick. It's just a big guy, not necessarily height-wise, but he's really going to help that run game we've been struggling with for a number of years now, help us get back to that defense. And then combine that with Mike McDonald. The pick just makes sense for the defensive-mind head coach, and then adding more young players to that young defense with Devin Witherspoon, Drake Wallen. It makes sense for the system, and I think it's going to work out pretty well.
Yeah, completely agree. I think Byron Murphy was number one player at the number one position that we needed, interior defensive lineman. We needed someone in the trenches, whether that's on the offensive or defensive side of the ball, but at that position of the draft, interior offensive line maybe wasn't the move at 16th overall pick. I was maybe thinking of trading down, getting like a Jackson Powers Johnson kind of guy. But in the end, I completely was happy with what we did here. I was really sad when Latu went like one pick ahead of us to the Colts. I really wanted Latu. He was my number one favorite guy in this draft, number one defensive player in this draft. But Byron Murphy, he's incredible. I completely trust John Snyder. He's been absolutely incredible in the past 2 drafts. Got us like 4 starters in each of the drafts and completely solid guys. And Byron Murphy is just looking like the standout best interior defensive lineman in this draft. I don't know if you've seen like where he gets like, he's so athletic. He can get like on all fours while he's doing a pass rush. He's a super effective during a pass rush. He's athletic, fast. He's humongous, and insanely good in the run defense, which is exactly what we need, some run defensive support in the trenches. So Byron Murphy's going to complement with Mike McDonald's new system really well. He was getting a lot of player comps to like Justin Matabuke, who thrived in Mike McDonald's system in Baltimore.
Overrated. Just wanted to add that.
Mike McDonald boosted him up, but so with a guy like Byron Murphy, like the sky's the limit for what Mike McDonald can do with him as a prospect, and I'm super excited to see what Mike McDonald can transform our defense into. He's got like the guys that we hired alongside Mike McDonald. They said like they have no ties with Mike McDonald. They're just like the best guys that were available, which is exactly what I want. It's not like a loyalty thing. It's more just like the best coaches available. And our defense is going to really be transformed. A whole new coaching system and a brand new defense pretty much. Brand new set of linebackers, new safety, and then new rookies like interior defensive lineman Byron Murphy here. I think it was a great pick. To me, the rest of the first round, I don't know about Peter, but to me, the rest of the first round was pretty standard. Not a lot of like surprising picks. A lot of guys were mad about, like a lot of Packers fans, like one of my best friends is a Packers fan. He was mad about the Jordan Morgan pick, but if you actually watch college football or like watch Jordan Morgan, I really like Jordan Morgan. I think he's like a prospect like Taliafifuaga, but just slightly less developed. I think Jordan Morgan, he was my like offensive tackle 4 in this draft. I really like him. If you actually watch this tape, he's really good offensive lineman. My only head scratcher was like Ricky Pearsall, but he was pretty good. And obviously the 49ers saw something in him. Like, I don't know. There's a lot, like Keon Coleman was on the board still. Xavier Legette was on the board still. Ladd McConkey on the board still. And I liked all those guys way above Ricky Pearsall, but...
Yeah, well, I feel like for wide receivers, it's less hard to kind of go wrong based on who you pick somebody because they're all super talented. So it's pretty much like how you like what scheme you kind of see them in. Like obviously,
True.
I don't think Ricky Pearsall was the best receiver that they could have picked, but it depends how they want to use him. If they want a guy like that who can get up there as good athleticism, and it just depends on the role that they want to give him. So I don't hate that pick too much, but going over to the biggest steal of the draft, it's pretty clearly Jackson Powers Johnson, easily the most talented offensive lineman, one of the best center prospects in years, and he didn't even go in the first round. So I think that the Titans, I think that's who got him?
No, Raiders.
Raiders who got him. That's just an absolute steal, and they're going to be really happy. I think it's really similar to the Creed Humphrey pick by the Chiefs a few years ago when the Seahawks passed off on him. But I think he's going to be even better than that. He's going to be a top 3 center in maybe 2 years, maybe even 1.
Yeah, that's why I was really confused by the Tampa Bay pick to get Graham Barton above Jackson Powers Johnson, because Jackson Powers Johnson is just clearly the better center in this draft, and Graham Barton is just like, I don't know. I didn't think he was that great. He played offensive tackle most of his time at Duke, so I don't know what he's changing to center, and he was pretty solid at tackle, but I don't know. For a guy who's never played the position at center in the past year, I don't know why they wouldn't take Jackson Powers Johnson, but I also want to talk about the Baltimore Ravens getting Nate Wiggins. He was my cornerback 1 in this draft. I really like him. High motor. He's like insanely good instincts, great ball tracking skills, and he's just like a prototypical cornerback that you like to see. I liked him over all the cornerbacks. And, I don't know why Teron Arnold's draft stock was rising so high. I don't like him very much. Also, Quinion Mitchell, he's just kind of an athletic freak. But I don't think he's going to be that good. But Nate Wiggins is just the cornerback one you're looking for. And the Baltimore Ravens somehow get incredible draft value once again with such a low first-round pick. They've done it time and time again for the past 4 draft classes. Also, in some of the later rounds, 2 guys that I really liked in the secondary are Cameron Kitchens out of Miami and TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. Yeah. Cameron Kitchens he looked like an NFL-ready safety. He looked really good. I was hoping that the Seahawks got him because we need some secondary depth, some safety depth, and Cameron Kitchens really could have been that guy for us. TJ Tampa, I had him as my cornerback 5, I believe, and he went all the way in the that latter end of the 4th round. So incredible steal from incredible value from them. And also, I want to talk about our Seahawks 3rd-round draft pick, Christian Haynes out of UConn. I know he wasn't playing against the best competition. UConn, not really known for being a football school, but Christian Haynes, he looks incredible. Most people had him as their offensive guard 3. He looks really good. He's going to come right in and be a starting offensive guard for us. He looked incredible, and people were just saying that was maybe one of the best steals in the draft. John Snyder somehow always pulls off great late-round picks. But besides the first 2 picks, I think our draft class was pretty poor. We got Nehemiah Pritchett. We got 2 Auburn cornerbacks. We got the Michigan tight end, A.J. Barner, and then we got a random offensive tackle from some random school Finley or something. But he was his film looked insane, but he was obviously playing against D3 competition. And I don't know, it looked pretty poor, but our first 2 picks were insanely good value. And now we're going to shift this over to the Mariners. Their season's been looking pretty bright recently. We're on a little bit of a streak. I think we've won 15 of our last 8 or 20 games.
Something like that.
And we're about 7 games clear of the Rangers or something like that.
9 games over 500.
We're looking solid heading into... When's the All-Star break? Is it coming up?
It's in July.
Okay. Well, we still have a month till the All-Star break, but that's when we normally start to turn things up anyway.
Well, our team is performing really well scoring-wise, and the pitching has been phenomenal, just super consistent. None of the starters really have a super low ERA. However, everyone's super consistent, about a 3 ERA, just doing exactly what they need to do. No fluke games where they give up tons of runs. However, the offense has been the problem, as per usual the last few years. But the main problem, the main center of our struggle has been Julio. His batting average has been fine. He's been getting singles, but he has no power anymore.
Yeah.
I know he homered last night.
6 home runs, I think.
But it's just, very concerning. His OPS is, 650. I think what I've been hearing is that pitchers have figured him out. So he really needs to make a change in his approach. He always goes down 0-2 in the count, and then he just can't do anything after that. Always pressing, grounding out, popping out, striking out a ton. He just needs to relax and anticipate more. And it's been really affecting the whole team pretty much because we're not able to get as many runs. And then Mitch Garver has also... I feel like every single one of our acquisitions that we make in the offseason that's supposedly a really good hitter just ends up doing super poorly, and Garver's been the epitome of that. He's batting 170, just hasn't done anything at all. And he's supposed to be a guy that would be our permanent DH, just always get us hits, go home, go yard a lot, but he hasn't done any of that. He's really hurt our team. And when you don't have anyone batting above 280, it's really hard to be a good team, but the Mariners are somehow doing it, pulling it off, winning one-run games a ton, but you just can't rely on that. So something's got to change with the hitting coach, or I don't even know what it is, but they need to all change their approaches, and it's a pretty big problem.
But on a lighter note, one acquisition that we got that has been doing really fantastically lately is Luke Raley. He's been getting most of our runs in, whether that's homers or RBIs or even just scoring the runs. But Luke Rayleigh has been a really bright spot in our lineup. Also, Josh Rojas, he's been kind of on a cold streak lately, but he was batting over 300 for a while, and he's still at like 270 right now. Josh Rojas has been really consistent for us. But yeah, like Peter said, Julio just going into the season, he was like the favorite to win an AL MVP almost, and he just has not been the spark that we've needed. He normally turns it up around in June, but we need him to do it now. It's midway through June and almost midway through the season, and Julio has just not been the guy that we've needed him to be. Our whole team, like Peter said, the bats have just not been very hot as of late, but our pitching has been incredibly good. Our starting rotation is looking like the best in the league. Bryce Miller has been phenomenal. Luis Castillo has been phenomenal. All of those guys, Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu has been great, and our relievers have been insanely good too. Andres Munoz, one of the best closers in the league. So yeah, the Mariners are, like Peter said, what we're doing right now is not very sustainable. Winning 1-run games to like not so very great teams, like the White Sox are not very great, but we have had some really good series with some really good teams, like the Yankees. We split the series with. The Orioles, we beat them. Some really good teams that we've been beating. And if we can keep this up for a month, and then when it comes to like later in the season, we start to turn it up, I think the season's looking really good. We have about a 75% chance to make the playoffs, I think, right now.
We're 5 games clear in the division.
Yeah, 5 games clear in the division. And I don't know, 5 games is not a lot. And at this point in the season, it's up for grabs. But if the Mariners can keep it up, then we should be looking at a playoff spot here. All right, now I'm going to transition into the NBA playoffs, but I think we're going to specifically talk about the finals here. I mean, we can recap the playoffs a little bit. The Pacers made a little run, but for the Celtics, it was kind of just a cakewalk into the finals. Mickey Mouse run. An injured Knicks team, bad Cavaliers, bad Magic's team. But actually, the Magic performed pretty well. They're an underrated team in the NBA, but yeah, the Celtics kind of had a cakewalk, and then Tyrese Halliburton got injured. They didn't play their best. The Celtics are kind of just like almost a super team right now. They just have so much depth, and there's not right now. There's not one clear standout star for the Celtics. It's supposed to be Tatum, but at times it's Jaylen Brown. At times it's Kristaps Porzingis. At times it's Derek White or even Drew Holiday. So they don't even need to rely on one guy because they have so many weapons that they can utilize. And then over in the Western Conference, what the Mavericks have been able to do is incredible. I don't think anybody expected this. I think the Timberwolves are more of a storyline, though. Such a young team, an inexperienced team, beating the Denver Nuggets in 7. What an incredible series that was. Anthony Edwards showing signs of being a superstar. But yeah, the Timberwolves looked fantastic, but then the Mavericks just handled them. But right now, Mavericks down 3-0 in the finals. Peter, what are your thoughts right now?
Luka is a fraud, and he doesn't play any defense at all. I've been really thinking this a lot, and he's always like, this is going to sound like I'm biased, which I kind of am, but he's always complaining to the refs, and he's like, why are you complaining, bro? You don't play defense at all, and you just hog the ball and then whine when the ref doesn't give you what you want. And I think when it's Luka and Kyrie have been the ones who are the only ones who are doing anything for the Mavericks, versus how the Celtics everyone's been playing their role. The role players are doing great. It just shows that that's the reason why they're winning the series, and having a good base like that makes you win games, and you can't go all the way without having that like base of role players. And it shows why it's so impressive that the Mavericks came this far with just Luka and Kyrie, pretty much. Derek Lively a little bit. But the Celtics just work so well together, and they're really a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought process exactly, too. The only reason the Mavericks were able to get this far is because of their role players and how they stepped up. Like, the way that Derek Jones Jr., Daniel Gafford, P.J. Washington were able to step up against the Timberwolves is the only reason they were able to win that. And then because they had to worry about the role players as well as Luka and Kyrie, it was just unstoppable. But when you're only when the role players don't do anything and you only have to focus in on Luka and Kyrie, it's kind of easy to just game plan against that and just stop them, especially when you have such great defensive players on your team like Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. I mean, come on. Derek White and Drew Holiday are two of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. Drew Holiday is probably the best in the NBA, and Derek White's probably top 5. And then Kristaps Porzingis is just 7-foot unicorn. And then you also have Jaylen Brown, who's a two-way guy. Jason Tatum, who's like not bad at defense at all. And then you have Luka, who on the defensive side is kind of a liability. It's just not going to cut it. And Kyrie Irving didn't perform well in the first game. Luka hasn't performed well in the last 2 games. So it's just they both have to be clicking, and it just hasn't clicked for them in this series. So quite an unfortunate turnout for such a good playoff run, but they're probably going to get swept here in the finals. I think the Celtics have only lost like 2 games in this whole playoffs, which is kind of insane. So good on them. They deserve this one. I was kind of hoping that the Thunder made it to the finals or the Timberwolves, and I don't like the Celtics at all, but hats off to them, I guess. Finally, we're going to cap it off with the Champions League, more specifically Real Madrid. This Champions League was pretty fun. I was rooting for Bayern Munich to go all the way, but Real Madrid and Man City, probably the 2 best teams, battled it out in the semifinals, and that's just how it drew out for them. Man City ended their Champions League season, and Real Madrid comes out on top against Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund played really well. They game planned extremely well against Real Madrid. They probably played better than Real Madrid the whole game, but that's just what happens when you have that many great players on the team.
Dortmund had so many chances that probably should have gone in that first half, but then in the second half, Real Madrid took control. But I feel like if they were able to capitalize, Adeyemi had like 2 of those. If they were able to capitalize in the first half, they had maybe 2 goals, then it would be, I don't think Madrid would have gotten that second one. I think they'd be champions. But overall, I think this Champions League is like the least hyped one in recent history. It's just kind of a miracle that Dortmund got there, and I think everybody kind of knew what was going to happen, although Dortmund did play their hearts out.
Yeah, Real Madrid is just kind of overpowered right now. They have an actual insane super team. Like, this is some FIFA video game stuff. If I had to go position by position of the starting 11 of Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid, I think I would take 7 days out of 11. I would take all 11 players, all 11 Real Madrid players over all 11 Borussia Dortmund players, and I don't think it's really that close. That's just how the cookie crumbles when your team is that good. Even when they had an exceptional game plan and they executed it quite perfectly, they were holding off Real Madrid very well. But then you just can't win. Like, they had so many chances, but when you have Courtois in the back, one of the best defensive lines in the entire world, and then the best attack in the world, it's just you can't really stop it. And it's just unfortunate for Borussia Dortmund. They're not even going to be in the Champions League next year. That's just unfortunate. They didn't perform well in the Bundesliga, but yeah, they had the chances this year and last year, and they just weren't able to capitalize. And unfortunately, it's looking like those are the only few chances they were going to get for a while, because they're not really making any moves, and their roster is looking not great right now. But then also moving on to Real Madrid in the future. Real Madrid right now has 15 Champions Leagues in their history. And second, I think, is AC Milan with 7 or 6, and Toni Kroos and Luka Modric have 6 by themselves. So that's just insane. And then Real Madrid are probably going to win 3 of the next 3 years. So they just got Kylian Mbappe, who's the best player in the world to me by far, and they might get Alphonso Davies. Their team would be absolutely insane. They just kind of overpowered, and I don't see how they lose at all. Jude Bellingham, they probably have the two guys who are the highest odds for Ballon d'Or: Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr. And then Kylian Mbappe, I think he's third right now in odds for Ballon d'Or. So they have the top 3 guys for odds in the Ballon d'Or, which is insane. Real Madrid, yeah, looking like they're gonna win a lot of games in the next season. La Liga, they should win quite handily, and then Champions League, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it's a exciting storyline for the Champions League. But thank you guys for listening to this episode. That's gonna cap this episode. Thanks for listening all the way through. Make sure you follow the podcast and hit the notification bell and listen to our other episodes and many more to come. Thank you.
Thanks.